Good afternoon, parents and students. Welcome to the higher education evening for 2020-2021. Run obviously in a very different format, virtually this year, between myself and Richard Press from the University of Exeter. If you want to liaise with his video, you'll see that he's got a whole section on student finance and the process in regards to that. I want to discuss with you the Tretherras UCAS process and university in general, and how you would go about obviously applying for that, and what steps and measures you would need to take. So starting off, I think it's very important to understand that there are a multitude of courses. You know, there's, as I say there on the slide, over 55,000 different degree courses. That's not to mention foundation degree courses that would link into degrees as well. And you can do them in pretty much anything you like. I've given you a few examples there on the screen, and you can see there's some pretty unusual ones. A bit of viticulture and ornithology, if that tickles your taste buds, through to things such as ethical hacking. So really out there, anything is possible in relation to being able to study it and go into a chosen vocation of your choice. It's a case of doing the research and finding out what actually is out there. If you look at degree types for higher education, there's a number of different things you've got to fully understand first. So foundation diplomas, what are they? Well, usually for art, fashion and photography, a requirement would be before you enter into a degree, having finished your A-levels, you would usually apply to do a 1-year foundation art, fashion or photography diploma. On completion of this, you could then transfer up and then apply through UCAS or to the institution in order to apply for a degree course within that chosen field. Foundation degrees, well, the idea of those is they are essentially a stepping stone tool for students who haven't educationally matured yet. So assume you haven't quite met the entry requirements with the A-levels that you've achieved. Courses such as marine sport, forensic science, I've given you some examples, offer foundation degrees in those chosen degree paths. And essentially it's a first year, an extra first year, which gives you the grounding in that chosen specific degree, which would then give you entry into year 1 of the actual degree course. So essentially a bridging course. It'd be an extra year at university. There would obviously be financial implications for that, but if that's where you are wanting to head into higher education and you haven't met the entry requirements for the full degree, that obviously is a sensible step to take. You then got to then start drilling down the different types of degree. Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Education, a Bachelor of Arts with QTS, meaning Qualified Teacher Status, or your LLB, which is obviously a law-based one. And again, look at the different types of degrees which are out there. I give you a prime example, a Bachelor of Science degree in Geography and a Bachelor of Arts degree in Geography. Two very different types of geography degree. One mainly more focused on potential social behaviours, and one very much looking at physical geography. And again, in terms of the what is delivered at degree level, there is no curriculum. Like there is a recognised curriculum for any primary or secondary school educational system that everybody follows. At degree level, it's very much down to the institution. What they deliver, how they deliver it, and what their syllabus contains. So really drill down and go into detail about what actually you are embarking on at that institution. Is it the type of degree that is going to suit you and your learning? So doing your research is key and very important. You've then got MScis and MNs, which are basically a Masters in Science or Masters in Engineering. These are relatively new. They've been out a few years now. Invariably are 4-year courses. But what they allow you to do is to combine your degree with a master's. And because of the way that the funding works between degree level and masters, if you were to do them separately, this actually not only saves you a year in some respects, but actually is a different funding formula. You would actually gain the funding for the master's part of this degree as if you were an undergraduate, and therefore you would gain more funding in order to complete that degree. When you look to do a master's, the funding formula changes and it's very different. So again, it's something to consider. You might not be able to do it within your chosen degree, but if there is an option to do it and a master's is something that you are wanting to obviously succeed in and move on to, it's definitely worthwhile considering that as your first choice as you apply from sixth form. Other things you've got to look at: medicine, dentistry, and veterinary science. Very, very specific degrees requiring set deadlines, which follow a different agenda to any other degree that you may choose. There is very strict entry processes to it, and entry requirements and processes with regards to interviews, etc. These need lots of planning and preparation for. It's important that we identify in year 12 who those students are, so that we can start to prepare them and make sure that they are in the specific Oxbridge and medicine, dentistry, veterinary group, which Mr. Hammersley can then oversee on a weekly basis once you enter into year 13. You've then got joint, major, minor and sandwich-based degrees. A joint degree being, for example, a degree in English and history, where you'll come out with an equal proportion of the two subjects. A major, minor, where it could be you major in English with a minor in history, if I'm just going to keep those two as the example. A sandwich degree, again, usually is a 4-year degree. And the reason why it's a 4 rather than a 3-year degree is the second year invariably becomes a more vocational year for you, usually where you would do a year based in employment within that chosen vocation or degree, the area that you are looking into, or it could be a year where you are doing a transfer with a university in another country. So again, something, if you're interested in considering that, might be well worth looking at applying for a sandwich-based degree in your chosen degree course. The final 3 questions, I think this is vital, and this goes back to even when you're studying your A-levels. Ultimately, what do you enjoy and what you're good at, and where are you wanting to head? And that ultimately is going to determine the choices that you make in terms of higher education. You're putting a lot of financial investment into this. It's important that you have done all your research and that you make the right choices for you and nobody else. So moving on. Various admissions tests. Well, the top ones, UCAP and BMAT. Again, if you're going into medicine, veterinary and dentistry, you need to already have started doing your research, because the deadlines for admissions is obviously sooner than everybody else. The UCAT tests obviously need to be completed. I've got the dates further on this slides, but obviously before the end of September. The UCAT, things like the BMAT, they're not done at school, so you would have to go, the nearest place to us is the Pearson building in Truro in order to sit those tests. Very unique tests which you would sit, the aptitude-based tests, and follow a very, very different protocol in terms of structures to what you would imagine a normal exam or test would obviously comprise of. Other tests, LNAT, something that you might need to take as an entry requirement if you're wanting to go and study law. Again, with all of these admissions tests, it is vitally important that you do your research, you look at the institutions you are keen on, obviously wanting to go and apply for, and then look into the fine print of the entry requirements for them, because although they will all require you to have level 3s, i.e. A-level, standard grades or UCAS points, they might also require you to do an admissions test on top of this. And if you haven't done that, you're instantly going to negate your application to that particular institution. Again, there are others, your ELAT and HAT for English and history, STEP test for mathematics, and obviously if you're going towards the Oxbridge route, dependent on the degree, there are specific subject-based tests which you would need to complete as well as your application in order to be considered for those courses. And again, there are cost implications to those which you would have to factor in and meet the costs of. So again, next things to consider: what type of institution are you actually going to want to study at? What type of campus do you want to be on? I've given a few pictures there of different institutions. You've got top left, very traditional Russell Group Uni, you've got Durham University there. Top right, you've actually got very close to us a campus-based university, and that's the University of Exeter Tremo campus, which also houses Falmouth University as well on site. You've got my old university there, middle left, Sheffield Hallam, city-based university, a bit like Plymouth on the middle right. And you've then got things like King's College down at the in the bottom left-hand corner, where obviously, you know, that's your Oxbridge route, a very esteemed institution and beautiful buildings they are too. You've then got places like Aberystwyth, bottom right. If you want a more rural-based location that not necessarily near to anything or anybody, that might be something for you to consider. I know Aberystwyth have in the past, whether they are this next year, I don't know. They even offer bursaries for you if you are looking to apply for their, I think last year it was about £1,400 to help you with your sort of student fees or towards your, you know, being able to meet the demands of the degree. So again, lots of things for you to consider in relation to where you go. Again, in terms of where you go, what opportunities are on offer to you in terms of both sporting? What level is the sport at in your particular chosen sport? Are they competitive? If they're not, might be an area that you don't, in terms of a university, you don't choose that particular one. You know, it depends how competitive you want to be. And then obviously you've got all the social side of things. You know, from your halls of residence, there's a picture of a top right one there, down to the communal living spaces, which invariably happen across the country, regardless of which institution you go to. Again, sometimes they'll be single sex, sometimes mixed sex. Again, you've got to look into all of that and decide what is going to be most comfortable and beneficial for you. So the Tretherras UCAS process is pretty straightforward. I'll talk through this slide. So students will register and complete the online UCAS application. Some have already started to do this. I know there's 22 already because I checked recently to see how many had actually started this process. But what we are doing is on the first day back on the Monday, the 7th of September, we are going to be spending a few hours of that day making sure that if you are looking to go to university and higher education, that we make sure that we fill out the basics of this application with you so that we actually make sure it's filled out correctly. Once this process is done and you've made your choices, you would then pay and send. This will be sent to me, not to UCAS. It will allow me to proofread it and check it. And if there are any mistakes, I can send it back to you so that you can amend it before you send it back to me again. What is Unifrog? I've got it there in brackets. Well, I'm hoping that all year 12s now going to 13s have actually heard of Unifrog. If you haven't, you've been living in a bubble. Essentially, that is the tool which we use as a school, which will not only allow you to formulate all your searches for your institutions, but it's where you will collate your personal statement, which you will obviously add to your application. And it's also where all of the subject references will be collated, written on and collated from your form tutors and myself and the sixth form team when we come to write your actual UCAS reference. So it's important that all of that's up to date. And again, that's something that we will be going through and making sure is all in place on the Monday, the 7th of September when you guys come back. When obviously your application is sent through to me, it's up to me to make sure that your reference is attached. And more importantly, I proofread every single reference and every single application. I will usually do this with you. We'll triple check it. And I always give you guys the privilege of clicking the send button. It's a small thing, but gives you that instant sense of relief when you know that it's been sent off and you don't have to worry about it. Now it's a case of sitting back and waiting to hopefully see all the offers come rolling in. At that point, obviously, they will be simultaneously sent to UCAS and they will be disseminated out to all the institutions. The institutions have no idea who you have applied to, so it's a fair and due process. Universities will make their decision and they will then place it on your UCAS track, which is updated regularly. I will have access to it as well so that I can keep a tab on things, and they will make you offers based on conditional offers on certain grades, conditional offer based on UCAS points, which equate to depend on what grade you get, or it could be even in some cases unconditional offers. Again, these will vary and there's something that we can discuss based on what you do and don't get when obviously the decisions are made. Offers are generally made, as I say on the screen there, from your A star, A down to triple B for most degree courses, though I have seen slightly lower grades certain institutions. Or it could be points based. And again, I've used 120 points there as an example, but I've seen a whole range of UCAS points based entries from anywhere from sort of 88, 96 up to 120, 136 UCAS points. 120, just out of interest, if you're wondering what that actually means, is the equivalent of 3 Bs. A B grade is worth 40 UCAS points, hence 120. So once you've got all your offers back, it's important that you accept a firm choice, and you also accept an insurance choice as well. The mistake some students make as well is their insurance offer ends up being higher grades than their firm choice offer, which, to be honest, is daft, because if you don't meet your firm choice offer, you're certainly not going to meet the insurance choice offer if that's higher. Despite our advice, sometimes students still do that, and I've always scratched my head and wonder why, but anyway, no logic to that. But the important thing is to have your firm choice and a backup insurance that you would still be keen to go to should, God forbid, you don't actually achieve the required grades that you, or points that you would need. Fingers crossed you will though. Should you be really, really unsuccessful and have all of your 5 choices denied, you would go into something called UCAS Extra. This is where it would allow you to make 1 extra choice to an institution, different from the 5 you already have, and then you basically, 1 at a time, will either be accepted or declined from that. If you get accepted, great, you therefore got your choice offer. If you're declined, you can then make another, and that happens right the way up until the end of June, before actually at that point any other applications at that point would enter into what's called the clearing process. And that clearing process also would work for any student who doesn't meet the grades come results day in August, before obviously they would go and embark on their degree course in the September. That just gives you an idea of the UCAS tariff points. As I said before, if you have a look on the table, 40 UCAS points is the equivalent of a B, and therefore 3 Bs would be worth 120 UCAS points. The average points-based university is anywhere between 112 and 120, so somewhere in the region of BBB to BBC equivalent. The reason why UCAS points-based institutions are slightly different is they will also take into account things such as the extended project qualification, something we offer to all Year 13s, and you can see the tariff points there on the right-hand side in terms of what is on offer to you. Again, something which might be a safety net for you should you be in a situation where you might be concerned about not quite meeting the entry requirements just from your 3 A-levels. Those extra points would help towards that UCAS tariff. The flip side is, if you're applying to a Russell Group or a grades-based institution, a significant number of them now will offer you a reduced grade offer if you have completed an extended project. And for example, you are going to achieve an A or a B in it, for example, you would therefore be offered from anywhere from AAB becomes ABB. So you would get 1 grade normally reduction for the completion of a very successful extended project. So again, that as an AS, the only AS we now run is something to consider for you guys as a potential extra subject. So the UCAS University and Admissions Service. So again, I have discussed most of this. Apologies, my technology here. There we go. So there's a bit of a recap. You will generally use Unifrog to do all your searches for all your institutions. I know we're in a COVID-19 sort of environment at the minute, so I don't know what will be on offer in terms of actual open days or whether they'll just be virtual open days. But I strongly, strongly recommend all students do as much research as possible, because the last thing you want to be doing is applying to a university that you've never been to and you know nothing physically about. You then obviously get there the following September and go, well, why on earth have I applied here in the first place? You're putting a significant amount of financial input into this. You want to make sure you get the right choice in the first place. So do your research. You would then do your UCAS applying. Again, there's only one way to complete this, and that's the UCAS online application process, which we will follow you through step by step, lead you by the hand. You've got a maximum of 5 choices. You could, however, just choose 1. Again, the costs are there. For 1 choice, it's £20, and for 5 choices, it's £26, or certainly for more than 1, it's £26 after that. Just as a note, For medicine, dentistry, and veterinary surgery, you're only allowed to actually apply to 4 institutions for those, although you will get 5 choices. But an example would be you would apply for 4 medicine-based degrees, and your 5th choice, for example, could be a biomedical science or medical science-based degree, not necessarily a medical degree. So it's just worth noting that you won't have 5 choices for medicine or dentistry as a straight degree. Personal statement, something we will work on in great details. Again, there is no set way of doing this, because ultimately it is what it says it is. It is a personal statement. However, you can use the structure on Unifrog as a point of note. We will be on the 7th of September going through how to write a personal statement, and your tutor is well versed in how personal statements should be written anyway. If you go on the general rule of thumb, though, 2/3 should be devoted to your chosen subject and 1/3 about you. That's a general sort of guideline, although some people will put a lot more into the subject and less about themselves. Again, when it comes to using specific examples and work experience, make sure, 1, it's relevant, and 2, make sure you really talk about what you got out of it, what you learned from this process, and how you could apply this to your university degree and how it would help you. And it's certainly not worth putting "I am about to embark on," because they don't want to know what you're about to do. They want to know what you've done. So again, it's important that you've done that work experience throughout the year 12 process. Now again, we're in strange times. You might be in a trickier position at the minute, and the fact that you've not been able to access that the same because of obviously the COVID-19 situation. Ultimately, the personal statement is an entry tool. It can be used to decide between students. It certainly can be used during the interview process, and it's a pretty valuable piece of entry requirement material which you will be required to write. You will need to redraft it several times. I have yet to see someone who nails it first time. Please don't despair. It's a process that we will go through, and we will get it right for you, I promise, and we will support you. Final thing for me, if you are thinking of doing a gap year, you know, still do the process through Tretherras now, because there's nothing to say that you can't defer your application by 1 year. So you do the process now while you're still fresh, while you're in school. You defer it for the year, and you know that once you've done your travel year, or you're going off to gain extra work experience, you know that you've got that to come back to already in the September, and you're not having to worry about that application process once you've essentially left Tretherras. So again, it's another point to consider. So the dates that are set in stone, these are ones which you need to abide by. So unlikely, but if you have completed your UCAS application and the references are all written, I doubt that will ever happen by the 8th of September, but assuming it is, you can actually submit them from then. We obviously get the medicine, dentistry and Oxbridge ones. They have to go off by the 15th. They are always our priority for that very reason. We set the Tretherras deadline. This year it's going to be the 11th of December, and I want all of your applications, references, which have been signed, sealed and delivered and sent off to UCAS before Christmas. It stands you in good stead. It means, well, every year you will be getting offers back before the UCAS closing date for applications, which is the 15th of January. It shows you're proactive. And it means it's not something that you have to dwell over the Christmas period. So we always get them all sent before Christmas. So that is the deadline you are working to. The 25th of February is the start of UCAS Extra, as I said before. If you are unfortunate and you have rejections from all of your choices, you can obviously then be entered into UCAS Extra, and you can start that new process, which obviously I can help and support you with. In terms of student finance, Richard's video will give you a lot more details on this. Every year they never set an initial start date of when it's actually going to be, but if you go on the general rule, it's the end of February, start of March. Student Finance England opens. You will then log on to there. You will fill out an application form online there, and the closing date for that finance application is invariably, and I think it's set in stone for next year, is the 31st of May. So a couple more dates for your diary. 5th of May is the deadline for making a decision on UCAS if you're going to receive all your decisions by the 31st of March. There are a few different dates if you receive them by different dates, i.e. later on. from that, but that's something you just need to look into a bit more detail on UCAS. And the next final two are, remembering results day is the 19th of August, Judgment Day. And should you wish to put in a late application, 21st of September is going to be the latest date. And do you know what? I've got 2020 there, but it will actually be for 2021. So it's my fault, a typo on that one. But for 2021 for you guys, if you were going to make a late application to university next year. So things to consider. I hope it's been informative. By all means, ask me questions at any point. You can always email me, parents, if you want to, just at the nt6@tretherras.net, and it'll be forwarded to me. Likewise, students, if you're in school at any point, or your form tutors, please just don't hesitate to ask with any of these processes or any questions which may have been thrown up from this presentation. Please watch the student finance video which Richard Press has put together for you guys, and I hope you find them both really informative. And yeah, look forward to working through the 2020-21 cycle of UCAS applications with you. So take care, and look forward to seeing you all in September.